Good Thursday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. A blend of sun and clouds today. Slight chance of a shower. You'll be in the mid-80s. Light northeast winds. Partly cloudy overnight. The overnight temperature 65 to 70 for the low. Friday should be partly to mostly sunny in the mid to upper 80s. And mostly sunny 85 to 90 for the weekend. Jonesboro's community radio station, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The men accused of carrying out a nerve agent attack in Britain have told Russian media they were tourists who wanted to see Salisbury Cathedral. Hurricane Florence could still spell disaster despite being downgraded to a Category 2 storm, according to US officials. Warsaw says it's worried over the European Parliament's vote to begin disciplinary action against Hungary, and India's banned the manufacture and sale of more than 300 potentially unsafe drugs, including painkillers and diabetes medicine.
It's 9:01.
Community Conversations is brought to you by Arkansas Early Learning, offering no-cost childcare in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. Applications at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Fabila Jones. Today is going to be a two-part series. We are interviewing local candidates for the City Council, Jonesboro City Council. Today we have, well, for part one, we have Dr. Charles Coleman from Ward 2, Position 1. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm great, thank you. Okay, let's try again. Okay. Yeah, I didn't have your mic all the way up. Okay. All right. So today we're going to be just asking a few questions concerning the city of Jonesboro. If you would like to chime in, please join our Facebook live stream, or you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. So we're going to just start out with Dr. Coleman, giving us a brief introduction. With how long have you been in this position, sir?
I've been in this position for 8 years, and one of the things that I want to make sure I express to the public that I totally feel this in my spirit, and so I can say it publicly and behind closed doors. You know, being a councilman is not about being a councilman. Okay. It's really about what the public needs are, and the things that people need, especially the quality of life. You know, you talk about sidewalks. I specifically, for one particular area, realized that Patrick Street is really a problem for me. Mm-hmm. I've been fighting for 8 years to try to get them first decide to extend that particular road, or widen it is a better term. They finally decided to put in $250,000 to put sidewalks, but it's kind of strange you put sidewalks and you haven't widened the road. Okay. You know, but the quality of life all over Jonesboro. But the other thing that's really important to me also is that you can't just be a councilman for your area. This is a citywide vote. Yes. And so the decisions you make are really decisions for the whole city. It's just that there's been a couple of articles out that I've talked about that I think Northside as a whole has been left out of the equation. Mm-hmm. And I found a newspaper article back in 1977 that said that City Council at that particular time had no intentions of doing anything on the north side. So the struggle, whoever, if I win or if my opponent wins, it's going to be a struggle, because you got still 11 other people that you got to contend with to get the things done. But the quality of life is just my priority.
Okay. Now let's get into quality of life. We hear this term tossed around. What does it entail?
Well, quality of life talks about streets. It also talks about the walkways, sidewalks. Give an example. I can't remember exactly what street this young kid got hit.
Over on Washington, off of Washington. Somewhere.
Yeah, Washington, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know what it is. But it really hurt my spirit that that young man didn't have any place to ride. You know, he had to ride the street, and so the walking people that's elderly have to have some place to walk. You know, walking in the middle of the street, you just can't do it, especially on Patrick.
No.
You know, the ditches that they have on Patrick need to stay cleaned out. You know, I push that all the time. I think the street department does a great job, but I think at the same time, being prejudiced, I want those ditches cleaned out constantly.
Yes.
Because people they're dealing with dope, they throw needles over into those particular areas. The kids walk through them, and they walk in those areas. And they, you know, kids are gonna be kids. They see something that's curious, they're gonna pick it up. But can you imagine your child picking up a needle out of one of those ditches?
Yes.
You know, or picking up something to eat out of one of those ditches? I mean, that's a major thing for me. So that's part of the quality of life. The other part is the recreation area, things for our kids to do. Matter of fact, I guess for a plug, we just started about 3 weeks ago a new club called Northside Stars to try to train children about these things, try to give them the information to understand it. Hopefully, we want you to walk on the sidewalks, but if there's no sidewalks, get as close to the curb as you can, and always walk in a certain direction. I always tell kids to walk in the direction that the cars are coming, rather than walk with the cars coming to your back.
Okay.
And so those are type things. It might sound like they're small things, but they're big things.
Okay.
You know, because even adults sometimes don't know which direction to walk in. I want to be able to walk where I'm facing that car that's coming toward me, and somebody coming behind me. So the quality of life means the existence of the total area where you live, around your house, around your neighbor's house. It's just a whole big. It's just a big thing that needs to be explored a little bit more in Jonesboro as a whole.
Okay. And one thing I would like to see, and we have a Facebook question, for individuals with disabilities, I would love to see a little more accessibility for them. Again, maybe having on certain sidewalks, having those ramps for...
Well, that's the ADA. That's part of the quality of life.
Okay.
The ramps that they need more ramps, but they need to be more visible. I notice so even on Fisher Street where we live, they got a little area, and if you're not really conscious of it, you can't really see it because of the lowness of it. And so all streets, I'm not sure why we haven't been totally, I don't think we're actually totally ADA compliant. I think that we've in the area of it, but that's part of the quality of life of getting these things ready, but also making the sidewalks a little bit wider, because when you riding in one of these wheelchairs or one of these I call it go-kart type things that people and one of these days I might be in one of them, but the streets are not wide enough, you know, not streets but the sidewalks not wide enough, and then those ADA portions that they have, those need to be a little bit more visible where you can see them. Most of them have the color of yellow. That's fine, but I call it a bright yellow.
Okay.
Because if you're elderly and you ride in one of those cars, or once again, wheelchair, you can't hardly see those things.
Okay. All right. We have a few Facebook question. I want to say first good morning to Mr. T.R. Hamilton, Leganzi Kell, and Mr. Paul Holmes. Leganzi asks, Dr. Coleman, do you feel that the negative stigma that is sometimes associated with the North Side hinders efforts to revitalize North Jonesboro?
I think so. I've talked about this being a minister. I think the negativism is more than just a word.
Okay.
I think parents need to take over their facilities. When I say take over their facilities, take over the homes, take over the children. And take over doesn't mean that you bossing people around, but you need to explain to your children the worth of being a citizen of Jonesboro, but also a worth of doing the right thing in Jonesboro.
Okay.
And at the same time, if you look at Northside, for some reason we gravitate people from other areas because of the low income status.
Okay.
In some cases, the word low income is fine, but to me on the North Side, it's been taken out of place. Low income means that you're poor. That's not true. You know, it's just that there are certain items that we don't have that other particular places in the city have. So I think the stigma having the term low income has really put a big damper on the North Side, and it has caused a stigma of gangs or whatever else that comes out of Jonesboro. So I think that's a bad issue.
Okay. We have another Facebook question. Some citizens are concerned about gentrification in North Jonesboro. While it is important to have quality housing, how can we balance affordable housing that can allow for long-term residents to remain in North Jonesboro while balancing the interests of investors who want to build in North Jonesboro and see a return of their investment and also promote good neighborhoods that everyone can be proud of?
Well, I guess that's another term that I'm totally familiar with, being a landlord myself. You know, I think one of the things that my wife told me years ago when we first started trying to fix up houses on the north side, because we live on the north side, so that makes us a little bit more prompt of what's really going on, is my wife just made a blanket statement. If you're going to fix up a house, if you're going to fix up something to rent, I want to be able to, if our house burned down, if you don't fix it up where we can actually move in it ourselves and have the same quality of life that we have in our home, then you need to get out of the business.
Okay.
And so I would tell anybody that part of that issue is that people have going into low-income house, because HUD has an issue of saying, well, if you move in a certain area, this is the amount of money that you get. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the responsibility of the landlord owner to do the best that they can to figure out a way to make the house what I call a little bit more pleasant from the outside, from the scenery standpoint, and also the inside. Okay. You know, so I'm not just blaming one person. It's just a whole city structure issue that it seems like most of the low-income housing is on the north side of town. I'm not sure if it's the economic part of it. It's just something that is done in Jonesboro.
I know. Legenzi mentioned gentrification. That's a word that not many people want to talk about. Do you see that happening in some of those lower income areas?
Okay, I can't hardly.
Gentrification.
Oh, identification?
Gentrification.
Okay, when you say identification, are you talking?
Gentrification.
Oh, gentrification. Okay. It's kind of like stopping somebody, looking at them.
Changing the scope of a neighborhood, putting housing or putting things in place that the people who already live there can't afford, and so it pushes them.
Oh, okay. I understand what you mean. It's kind of like having a place that if I got my paycheck is a certain amount of money, then I can't afford these other places. Mm-hmm. Well, what we've done to change that, and I have to talk personally. We have most of the houses that my wife and I have now are called lease to buy.
Okay.
Mainly because they can't go to the bank, they can't go to the credit union, they can't go to these places that what we call the average person that can go and get a loan at the bank. So lease to buy is probably one of the best things that I've seen, because once a person owns something that we have seen, it gives them an entitlement to say, hey, I'm just as good or just as important as somebody else because I can afford a home too.
Okay.
So that's in that gentrification process. They're saying, I can move in here and my house will look just as good as some house on the south side. It might not be as big, you know, because of the nature of the type of houses on the north side, but that's part of the issue.
Okay.
You know, having something that you own will allow you to take care of it better. We have seen that. That's been a proven fact for me over the last 10 years that we've leased to buy.
Okay.
You know, matter of fact, we kind of got out of the rental business because of that.
Okay. All right, you're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We're speaking with Dr. Charles Coleman, who is the City Councilman for Ward 2, Position 1, and who is also up for re-election. I want to say good morning to Mr. Samuel Harris and Ms. Chelsea Chapman. We also have another question. The Future for Felons group is planning a protest in Cedar Heights over the signs that declare the area a public nuisance and bans felons. The group believes the signs are discriminatory and makes people affected seem like second-class citizens. What are your thoughts on the signs?
That happened when I first got on the council. They started putting these signs up. And I have to agree with whoever the caller is. I didn't get the name, but whoever the caller is, I have to agree that that is a stigma. Mm-hmm. That's kind of putting that area in a bad light for if you have all those signs out there. Then at the same time, but what I've asked the police to do is do more, not screening, I want to make sure that's a clear statement, but do more drive-by. And when I mean drive-by, not by a car. I asked the chief of police about bicycling. Matter of fact, Kenneth Baggett actually said that, and the mayor and I had a meeting, and I asked her, why don't you just, instead of just going around in cars, go around on the bicycle so you can talk to the citizens and let them understand that they're protected just like anybody else. And then that would also ward off some of these particular gangs or whatever. But at the same time, I think the protection of the citizen is why they have those signs. And sometimes you have to look at it that way, even though I don't particularly like the signs. I still think, you know, they have a good cause.
Okay. All right. I also want to say good morning to Ms. Chelsea Chapman. All right. So, other questions that, or issues that have come up. We can't talk about flooding enough for the city of Jonesboro. And again, that goes back to you saying keeping the ditches cleaned out. That will help increase the quality of life as well. It can help keep mosquitoes down and other airborne
Absolutely.
diseases.
Well, each year, Fish Street Community in Action, which is I'm the president of, we try to have a cleanup program and what we try to do is combine the cleanup program with what I use the term what the city had done. You know, they can do so much, but I think it's also a part of the city themselves and the individuals themselves to keep their own area clean. So since we know everybody can't do that, everybody sometimes not healthy, we have a lot of elderly people in the community, so we have a cleanup program.
Okay.
And doing that cleanup program, we are combined with the city to bring out all the trash that we can, cleaning out the ditches, cleaning off the soft spots that I call soft spots just around people's houses. The only problem that we've run into is sometimes it's kind of strange that this happens, that when trying to clean up certain areas, we've asked people, not to come in their yard. They've asked us not to come in their yard, and we're trying to help them, and they run us away. So part of the quality of life is that we would hope that the citizens would say, okay, I can't do this. Would you help me do it? Cutting their yards. We've got a group now that wants to start help cutting people's yards. And if you want your yard cut for free, I can't tell everybody who to go to.
Okay.
But some of the young kids around the community are saying, we want to help out. So, Dr. Coleman, can we cut a yard? This type of thing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. As we, another issue that I have noticed as a citizen is that not enough people support, and I hate to, please don't come for me for saying this, support the city council. No, not enough people come to the meetings to express their concerns. Not enough people get to know their city council person. So how can the city council and the residents, kind of balance, and I hate to say fix that issue, but start working on increasing that?
Well, that was really the reason we started Fish Street Community in Action.
Okay.
Because citizens would not come, and just like a lady told me the other day, and I knew she didn't mean to be nasty to me, but I asked her a question why she wasn't coming to city council to voice opinion, because I get frequent phone calls from this particular person. And then unfortunately, as I said before, we have a lot of people call that's not registered to vote. That kind of hurts too. Call a person, they want something done, but you ask them are they registered to vote. Well, I'm not registered to vote, but you need to be there and take care of business. Well, I take that with a smile and move on, and be an understanding person that if they want something done, that we'll try to work with them. But again, come to the city council to voice your opinion. But I need to add something to that, because I've heard this stigma for especially the last 2 months. That I'm afraid to come to the city council because somebody's going to talk down to me. You own us. We work for you. And so if somebody's talking down to you at the city council, then you need to rebuttal them and say, wait a minute, just a minute. You work for me.
The last time I checked, we were all adults, and
Right.
no one, unless they're your parent, they don't have a right to talk to you any type of way.
Right. You don't, and that bothers me that would happen to a person that comes and say, well, I can't come because if I come up and make a statement, then they're going to put me down. But here's the other thing that's widely said to me in Jonesboro. I don't want my name called, because when you come up to the podium, they're going to ask you your name and your address.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't want nobody to know it's me.
Well,
I don't quite understand that. So I really don't have, even on this radio station, I don't have an answer for that kind of statement. I just said come anyway. But regardless of, period, my job is to accept whatever they say to me, whether they curse me out or whatever, because that has happened to a point, is to say what I have to say to them, do what they ask me to do. And at the same time, I'm running for the position and they think that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, then, there's another person running.
all right. You heard it from Dr. Coleman himself. Please don't forget to check out all the candidates. They will be on KLEK 102.5 FM. They're also doing other public speaking around town. So please, if you can't tune in here, well, you can always watch the video on YouTube, on our website, and you can always try to catch them around town. I want to encourage everyone to get to know who's running so that you can make an informed decision when you go to the polls.
I like to say some. I guess my last words is don't be afraid to talk to your council person. Don't be afraid. They work for you. I work for you. Okay. So if you got a statement, if you want to make a phone call, you can call me at 931-3178. Regardless of who you are, regardless of whether you're a registered voter or not, you live in Jonesville. This is your home. And I feel that we all need to be in the same bed trying to take care of that home, which is Jonesville as a person. So don't be afraid to ask me now. Maybe some of the council members have issues with that. I don't.
Okay. Now, another thing I forgot to mention, I noticed at one of the events you all spoke at, there was a question asked about the economics of the city. And I want to point out that until we residents step up and speak up, we're not going to see what we need or want to see on our different sides of town that are going to help increase the economic status.
Well, that I kind of spoke to that a few minutes ago. You know, whatever happens on the south side of Jonesboro, believe it or not, affects the north side. You know, I've been fighting for businesses. I've talked to several businesses, not just talking this because I'm on the radio today, but behind closed doors, I've talked to several businesses. One of the problems that we have on the north side in that area is it's a kind of like a forest for rain. Does that make sense to you? You know, we live in a deprived area that the property itself has not been built up. You know, a flood zone type issue. So a lot of the business would flat tell me, say, well, we would like to come over to Coleman and build something, but you live in a floodplain in a flood zone. You know, bottom line. But I also got sense enough to know, because I have an engineering background, that you can do something about that flood zone and that floodplain by building up the properties too at the same time.
All right, so I just want to put out there that everyone needs to speak up, speak out, attend these council meetings, vote for the person you want to see in the position that you feel will best represent you and the issues you care about. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our second candidate, Mr. Tom Elwood. You're tuning to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.